AI has become one of the most talked about technologies. A lot of the hype makes AI seem like a magic wand that can do anything, or an evil demon that will leave massive numbers of people without jobs. While it's unlikely, at least for now, that these extreme cases are true, there is little doubt that AI is a technology we need to understand. For most companies, the challenge is identifying what are practical use cases for AI in their organizations. I'm Jane Singer, and welcome back to A Seat at the Table. On this show, we sit down with leading entrepreneurs, innovators, and thought leaders to get a close-up look at the technologies and developments that are impacting industry. Today, I am joined by Professor Calvin Wong, CEO and Center Director of AID Lab, and Chung Endowed Professor in Fashion of the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Professor Wong is ranked among the world's top 2% of most cited scientists in the field of artificial intelligence and image processing, with over 170 high-impact journal publications. His work bridges industry and academia. In 2019, he worked with one of the world's largest online shopping platforms to establish the first of its kind fashion AI dataset. In 2022, he and his team developed the world's first design-led AI system, AI-based interactive design assistant for fashion, otherwise known as AIDA. In this podcast, Professor Wong will be discussing the top myths around AI that need to be busted, the role that humans are playing in AI-driven design applications, the most practical use case for AI in textile manufacturing, and what might be the next-gen application of AI in the apparel and textile industry. When apparel executives want a sharp view of global supply chains from factory to retail selling floor, they turn to Inside Fashion. In the words of one of our subscribers, Inside Fashion consistently provides an extremely comprehensive yet concise take on the apparel industry, simplifying key topics and making them accessible and understandable, while also highlighting what's next on the horizon. We couldn't have said it better. If you're looking to track the movements of key apparel sourcing nations, major export markets, or discover emerging retail markets, then Inside Fashion could be exactly what you're looking for. You can learn more at insidefashionlive.net. That's insidefashionlive.net. I'll also leave a link for it in the show notes. Now, let's find out from Professor Wong how to power up our organizations with AI. Calvin, I'm really happy to have you with us on A Seat at the Table. AI is the hot topic these days. Everybody's interested in it. People are a little bit confused, a little bit excited. So I think you'll be able to clarify a lot of things for us here on the show. There seems to be a lot of conversation around AI, and there's just as many myths as there are truths. Perhaps based on your many years of experience working with AI, you have the hands-on, the field experience, as well as the academic knowledge. What are some of the myths that you think need to be busted?
Yes, and you must know that because of OpenAI, people experience the power of AI, like ChatGPT, Midjourney, and associated AI systems and apps. I think most of the people nowadays have already tried, and it seems like AI can do everything. And I also observed that people have the perception that AI, having said that, AI is powerful, can do everything. Actually, to a large extent, AI can automate the tedious and repetitive tasks of general business operations, even use AI to prepare the PowerPoint, something like that, even to using generative AI to produce the video clips. And even, some people have thought that AI can take over designers' job of creativity. But for specific industry-oriented tasks, it's not that easy to use AI for solving every problem. And based on my experience in the past few years working with the industry, who tend to adopt the AI system in specific tasks, whatever their design and business operations. Companies should prepare themselves with a mindset that adoption takes time. So even there's a good AI system, or machine, it is necessary to do fine-tuning and modification, whatever algorithms, software, or hardware, so as to meet the specific industry requirement. So training a good AI model needs to go through training process. So we need data, right? Data is, the foundation of building the AI model. Even we are talking about ChatGPT, Midjourney, the bases are still data. So companies need to set aside resources, I think, like manpower to work with the AI team for collecting data, programming API for data transfer and integration. So I observed that, many companies have the perception that AI, can do everything and treat the system or machine. Using an example of very recent hot topic in our textile industry, using AI for fabric inspection. Companies or manufacturers just think that once connecting with electricity source and switching on the machine, it can detect all types of defects on all types of fabric. But it's not the case. So this is the reason why even in current AI system or technologies which can help us to do quite a number of daily work and even the general business operation, but we still need to train the generic AI model to accommodate different specific requirements for different factories, companies. So I think implementing AI is an evolutionary process which takes time instead of just saying that AI is very powerful. So this is what I would like to answer your question.
At the moment, where do you see AI being most effective? In other words, as you said, people think it's sort of like a magic wand, right? It can do anything. And sometimes it seems to, when you first start using it, it's really remarkable. But what are the areas where you think AI right now is particularly effective? And where are the areas where you say it's not really as effective in these other things?
The core part, how we can train up an AI model. So this is a reason why when we develop the practical, I would say practical AI model, for industry use, the AI expert or the AI team or the AI company, they must communicate with the industry, whatever the factories or the companies, and even those people with that kind of trained knowledge when we kick off the project, instead of just directly applying the existing AI model for specific use. I think it doesn't work. So
Right.
this is the reason why I have mentioned we need to take time, to go through a process to train up an AI model which can accommodate the exact requirements of the specific task of the industry.
Right, right. I think that's really interesting. So it's not just an out of the box, off the shelf kind of a thing. You have to actually have experienced people who can work with it. And then because they're bringing their knowledge, they're able to then so AI really is a tool. It's not a replacement per se.
Exactly.
Now, I know you've been developing a fashion design application in your AID lab that combines the power of AI, but also with the creativity of humans. And I think that's really very interesting that you're combining the AI power, right? And along with the human creativity. Could you tell us a little bit about that project and about how you see the role of humans versus the role of the technology?
Yes, and actually the application or the system we have developed called the AIDA, AIDA. The full name is AI-based Interactive Design Assistant for Fashion System, which is actually a pillar project of the AID lab. And we have kicked off this project on July 2020, almost 4 years before. And there are two principles, when we have kicked off this project at that time. The first one is that we really want to do something which can apply AI to inspire, the creativity of designers in their design and ideation process. So this is the first principle. The second principle is that we really want to to help the designers to speed up the whole design process. So these are the two principles when we have developed the ADA system. And one more important thing is that when you come across the full name of the ADA system, AI-based interactive design assistant for fashion system, there are two words. The first keyword is interactive. It means that which is a kind of support, assistant, or a tool to interact with the designers in the design process. So this is why we focus on the interaction when we have developed the system. The second keyword is assistant, which is a support, something like, a human assistant, to treat the AI as a human assistant to co-create the fashion collection or the fashion items with the designers. And the niche of the ADA system is that the first one is about the integration with the existing design workflows, because we don't want to change the current practice of the fashion designers. So this is very important. So this is the reason why, the ADA system, which seamlessly integrates with the designer's existing design process. So this is the reason why the designers still need to prepare, their mood board, initial sketches, color tones, and also the fabric prints. So there's no any difference between using ADA, not using ADA. So this is one thing. The second thing is that, which is about the user control. Having said that, because of generative AI, happened recently, some designers, they worry that maybe their job, will be taken over, by the AI. It's not the case. It's still the designers, to control the whole design process, even they use ADA. So unlike existing generative AI tools, which just rely on fully autonomous AI generation, ADA prioritizes users' input, designers' input, like the mood board, the sketches, the fabric prints, and allow them to have full control over the design process. So we must make sure that the AI-generated designs align with the designer's vision and also the brand identity. And the third point is the collection creation. Also, unlike the existing generative AI tools, which generate just individual design, but ADA goes a further step by helping the designers create a collection of designs that work together. So this can save designers the effort of manually curating a cohesive collection from different designs. Because once the designers upload the images of the mood board to the ADA, for each second, ADA system can generate one outfit for designers. So for each time ADA can generate 8 outfits within 8 seconds. So based on what we have developed, and even quite a number of designers have already adopted our system, their feedback is that ADA can help them to quickly generate multiple designs. And because of this, the ADA system can shorten that time to market. And based on their comments, ADA can speed up the whole fashion design process by 70%. So this about, the niche of the ADA system.
We're going to take a quick break now, and then we'll be right back.
We were hiring when we were making 50 to 100K monthly losses.
And why? Welcome to episode 1.
I can't think of a single founder who's been around for a decent amount of time in business who hasn't had their tunnel of year. This was that year. We're going to be okay, yeah, Sheree. Some are going to hear this and think, you TDP. But hear me out. You only have to do the math to understand that very soon we were $500,000 down.
Wow, that's really interesting. And I did have the opportunity to come to your lab and to be able to watch a demonstration of your ADA system. And it is remarkable. If I'm understanding you correctly, then when you look at the AI, rather than replacing people, it's just the next generation in a sense, perhaps with a little more of its own, input, but similar in the same trajectory that we went from doing everything by hand, right? Either with pen and ink or watercolor, whatever people use to do the designs on paper. And then we were able to bring things into some of the digital programs, right? Like Photoshop or Affinity Photo or many other programs that are out there. And now AI is putting, well, a lot more power. It's more than just the next step. It's probably a leap, but it's still controlled by people. Would that be sort of a rough summary?
Yes. And I think one more point is that, within the shortest period of time, the designers can visualize all possible combinations of the design elements based on their initial mood board. And then just because of this very fast outfit generations, designers can then edit, amend, and fine-tune the whole design collections before prototyping. So it's very important for saving a lot of resources.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can see how that would not only save on time because the machine renders it for you very quickly, but also, as you're saying, you can save on materials because you're not having to create so many physical samples of things, that being able to do it this way, it's quite a huge win, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, particularly in our industry where you have so many models. In fact, I was just speaking with somebody earlier today in our industry, and we were talking about really one of the big challenges in the apparel industry is that you don't have so many things that continue on for years, right? If you're doing something like homewares, right? Like, let's say plates or glasses, you might have developed something and you just keep running that. But whereas in apparel, you're always having to change it every single season. You're constantly having to come up with so many new things that it makes it it's a much more difficult design and supply chain product.
Yeah. Agree.
Yeah. So what you're doing with the AI, really could be literally, hugely game changing, I think, for everybody on that. And I think for people who are smaller businesses that can't afford a huge design team, they could really, have a tremendous leg up being able to use a system like what you're using, aside from, of course, the big companies that are able to, do a lot more because they have this.
Yes, particularly I think in my experience, the current users of the ASA system, particularly are those, the ODM factory. And you must know that for the ODM factories and even some small scale, companies, they haven't put a lot of resources on establishing a big design team for their designs. So I think to a large extent, the ADA system can help them a lot to inspire the limited resources of the design team to inspire more new designs for their clients. I think this is quite important instead of just all those fraction products or the designs dominated by the big name or the large retail group.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's so many different ways that people are talking about using AI in industry, from the design side, as we've been discussing, but also, as you mentioned earlier, finding defects in fabrics. So that's more on the factory floor, which is also really critical. There's just so many different use cases that are being discussed. From your point of view and within the manufacturing side of things, what are you seeing at the moment, or maybe in the near future, as the most practical use cases, things that you see are either being applied now or that are pretty close to being able to be rolled out?
I think the most practical use case in this period or in the near future will be the fabric inspection.
Okay.
And actually, I think tracing back, I think maybe 10 years before, some AI companies have already developed this kind of AI system for fabric inspection. But I think right now, the performance of this kind of system is not that promising. The reason is that because at that time, the advancement of AI model is very slow, and even the technology of the industrial cameras are not that sophisticated. But I think in these few years, there are some sort of changes, on these aspects. And you must know that in these 2 to 3 years, the AI model has been developed very quickly. And even when I come across some sort of the quality of the industrial cameras is quite advanced. This two things, I mean the AI model and also the industrial cameras, are crucial for the fabric inspection on real-time basis. Because from the factory's perspective, real-time inspection is very important. And just even I can share with you that in these 2 years, I have joined different textile machinery trade shows, and I found that even just in mainland China, around 10 AI companies have newly been established to develop the AI fabric inspection system. And at the same time, more and more, whatever textile mills or the garment manufacturers, they really want to automate, the traditional inspection process. Although the performance of the inspection technology right now is not that promising in terms of inspection accuracy and also the types of fabrics being handled based on my observation in the market and also conversation with many textile manufacturers. Certainly AI inspection will become popular and the most practical use case for the industry. In industrial norm, the inspection accuracy and efficiency based on the human method is just around 70% and 10 to 12 meters per minute.
Right.
So using AI technology can ensure to improve the inspection accuracy, say, can achieve over 90%, and the inspection efficiency can achieve up to 40 to 60 meters per minute. So I foresee that around 40 to 50% of the traditional inspection machine will be replaced by AI in the coming 10 years, particularly for those whatever woven or the knitted fabric with solid color, stripe, and also the track patterns. I'm not talking about the printed fabric is very complicated, but at least 40 to 50% of the traditional inspection machine will be replaced. And because of the cheaper and cheaper price of the industrial cameras, and because industrial cameras plays the most expensive component of the AI inspection machine. And so I think even for those more affluent manufacturers, they could afford this kind of system in the future.
Right. So if I'm understanding you correctly, then human inspection of fabric, and aside of prints, right? Because you said prints are a whole nother ball game, but for non-printed fabrics is about 70% accuracy, whereas AI is 90% accuracy.
At least.
Yeah. So is there a model where you're combining humans and AI to get a higher accuracy, or is it usually if you're using the AI, then you would be using it in place of having the human inspection?
It's a very good question, and it is a kind of evolutionary process. One of the reasons why right now there's no any promising AI system in the market which can fulfill the industrial requirement. This is because you must know that for different types of fabric, we have different types of defects. So it's very difficult for just one AI model to accommodate different types of fabrics and also different types of defects. And another thing is that even for the same type of defect on the same type of fabric, for different clients, for different textile mills, their standard is different. So how can we just use one AI model to cater for different types of customers, fabric, and also the defect? So this is the reason why we are talking about human-computer interaction or human AI interaction. It's like a kind of process. And because of this human involvement, the AI model can really understand, okay, for this particular type of fabric, for this particular client or the fashion brand, okay, this is your standard. And then the quality inspector or the human can adjust, can tell the AI model, okay, for this type of fabric and also this type of defect, is the defect or not the defect. And then because of this process, through the interaction between human and AI machine, the AI model can be trained up to cater for your needs. So this is a kind of interaction process. And this is the reason why recently AI Lab has already developed an AI inspection machine, which has already been adopted by the industry. And we are now following this track, to fine-tune and develop more different types, of AI models for different clients to achieve their standard.
Right, right. So basically a mill would implement AI and then it would have to take that software, right, and customize it or train it, as is the case with AI, to be
Yes.
effective in their mill setting. And as you're saying, based on what the materials they're producing, the standards that their customers have. So it would be something that you would take and then you would need to customize to your own use case.
Yes. And I would like to highlight that it takes time to train up the AI model to meet your requirement. But certainly the foundation is still the
Right,
base model is very important. Otherwise, even we are carrying out the human and AI interaction is meaningless. If
right,
your base model has not been well trained, we can do this.
right, right. So if you're looking at training an AI specifically within a textile mill for fabric inspection, and I know every case is different, but roughly what would you say is a typical timeline, ballpark?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's subject to the types of fabric, and for those woven or the knitted fabric with solid color, it's more easy for the AI model to be trained up. But for those very complicated structured fabric like the Adobe or the Jersey type, it takes more time to train up the AI model because of the noise. Because of the complicated surface of the fabric, we just use the camera to capture the image. We need to filter the noise because of the computer structure. So it takes time. But you even said that it takes time. I think that the period is not that long. Maybe just after a few number of batches of fabric for the AI model to learn. I think it's okay for fully automation.
Right, right. So you think within a month or so, if someone was going to implement this system in their factory, they could get it in pretty good working order.
Yes.
So now it's just a matter of the camera price coming down, which I guess it will, right? Ultimately, the price will drop to make it more affordable, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can see why mills would find this kind of inspection to be very, very useful because like you're saying, it's really tough to catch all the defects, and yet it's very, very important to be able to do that and do it accurately and quickly.
Yeah, I think maybe I can share with you a case study. I mean, for the factory in mainland China, and certainly at this moment, I can't say something about the exact price of the machine.
Right.
Just taking the case in mainland China, we have already calculated based our existing retail price of the AI inspection machine is around 2 years. I mean, the payback period, just 2 years. Maybe somebody may think, oh, maybe because, okay, maybe the factory is now located in other developing countries like Vietnam or Cambodia, something like that. Maybe it takes longer time to get the payback. But the point is about the labor shortage. Because some our existing partners in Vietnam, I mean the textile mill, they also told me that it's very difficult to hire skillful quality inspector in Vietnam. So I think from this perspective, I mean AI can also help to resolve the problem of labor shortage in the textile industry.
That's really interesting because that's not something that is talked about much when we talk about AI, right? Typically, the conversation focuses either on speed, right, or on saving materials, which is also important, right? But we don't really talk about the idea that we have a labor shortage. People are focusing on how do you cut costs and not,
Yes.
oh, interesting. Yes, you're right. We do face a labor shortage in many areas. So to be able to do this, we're not really actually cutting people out. We're filling voids that we're not able to actually fill with human employees oftentimes. So that's a really interesting point.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, finally, when we're looking at AI, both on the design side of things, on the manufacturing side of things, what might be the next thing coming up? Like, I know we've talked about the ability to make rendering designs and enhancing creativity through on the design side of things, and obviously the inspection side in the factory. Are there other things right now that are not actually practical to use, but that you feel will be the next area where AI will play a key role?
Mm, it's very hard
I know
to
that's
answer.
not easy, right?
Yes, and actually, when we talk about our fashion and textile industries, I mean, for AI application, for the potential application, it covers, design, manufacturing, and even business or retail, right? And we can do a lot of AI machine learning applications in this industry. Whatever using generative AI, for design and creativity, using robots for material handling and transportation inside the mills, using AI for fabric inspection, which we have mentioned, and even to track the color shading to improve inspection accuracy and efficiency, and virtual try-on, virtual fitting. So these are the common and also very hot topics for fashion business or fashion retail. But in practical sense, what I have observed and witnessed, the successful AI and machine learning technology application of those have just mentioned is very, very limited. For most of the applications, I can say that they are still at the very early stage. So to answer your question, I think in coming 5 to 10 years, for those I have mentioned, I mean the application of AI, which can be realized or widespread adopted by our retailers, textile mills, garment manufacturers, and even the fashion brands, designers. I think I'm very satisfied with this.
Yeah, I
Rather
think that's
than
good.
thinking about the next new AI technologies for the fashion and textile industry. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, we always want to be looking ahead. Everybody wants to know what the next big thing is going to be. But I think sometimes, like you're saying, let's focus on what we're doing now and perfecting what we're doing now and really seeing how we can apply that to industry so that it does the job it needs to do in the way that we need it to do it, rather than always be chasing the next shiny object, so to speak.
Yes, I think the current situation is that whatever universities or the research institutes or even the commercial AI companies, they are doing very well and have developed a very remarkable innovations and technologies AI technologies for fashion and textiles. But the point is how we can make it practical.
Right.
So this is the reason why right now the successful case is very limited. So how we can translate this kind of innovations to the practical use, but I think it's very important how we can partner, both parties together, the R&D centers or universities, AI companies with the industrial users is very important because we need to listen the actual requirements.
Yes.
So it's crucial how we can apply practically in the real life situation. I think we need to pass this hurdle. Once we can pass this hurdle, I foresee that the progress of implementing AI in our fashion and textile industry will be very fast.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's interesting because you're putting this in a very practical light. Because oftentimes the myth that we talked about earlier is that AI is going to come in, it's this remarkable new thing, it's going to take everybody's job. And then in reality, based on what you're saying, and I think this is quite true, is that it really will simply augment human capabilities in the way all the technology prior to this has. And perhaps AI is more powerful, but it still needs that human interaction in order to actually get the ideal end result.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, very
So
interesting.
yeah. So that's why the AI lab. Once we kick off the AI project, we must collaborate with the industry. Otherwise, it's meaningless. I foresee that the outcome of the research will not be adopted practically.
Yeah, I think that's really a brilliant strategy because too often things are developed only within the silo, right, of an R&D center. And then when it gets out into the actual world, there's a lot of gap between what something can do right in an R&D facility and what it can do when it's having to function in real world situations. So I think it's really wonderful that you see that in advance and that you're trying to avoid that situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Calvin, thank you so much for sharing these wonderful insights. Like I said, so many people in our industry are trying to figure out what to do about AI, how to use it, where it's going. So it's really a blessing to be able to talk to somebody like yourself and get this kind of firsthand inside information.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Jane.
Now, I know a lot of people would probably want to reach out to you. People have their own questions and so forth. Where can people find you? How can people connect with you?
It's very easy. Just send the email.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to include that as well as the website for AID Lab in the show notes for this episode. So people will be able to connect with you, learn more about the great work that you and your team is doing. I really applaud everything that you're achieving, and the lab is remarkable. I'm really fortunate to have had an opportunity to go there.
Most welcome. I look forward to collaborating with more industrial partners because the vision of AID Lab is actually to translate our research outcome into the practical use for the industry.
Yeah, well, that's really great. I think a lot of people listening to this would be very, very interested in learning more about what you're doing and how that might apply to their particular business, whether they be a fashion brand or whether they be a manufacturer. So we'll be sure to include all of that information, how they can connect with you. And thank you again for being here with us today.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you.